Hi, I'm Justin Yee.
I'm Brian Yee.
And we're both juniors at WWII, and we're interviewing our grandparents for a U.S. history project and about World War II.
I'm Augusto Endaya, and I'm 75 years old, and I'm one of the grandfather in fact.
Hi, I'm Endaya. I'm one of the grandmother, and I'm 72 years old.
Yeah. Here. So, what is your place of birth?
I was born in Manila, Philippines.
And I was born in Olongapo, Zambales, Philippines.
Were you aware of the German atrocities towards the Jews
When you were kids.
during World War II?
No, not at the time.
Okay. Do you have any, were you aware of like Italy and Germany also, or just Japan as a kid?
Oh, just
Like, did you hear news about?
I've heard about the invasion of China. You know, Japan invaded China, and about it. And at the time, you know, we were so young, and then we really don't understand what was going on.
Were your interests in the war heightened, like once the U.S. entered the war?
No, because I was just 10 years old then. You know, all we do is watch all these airplanes dropping bombs and machine gunning, and we kind of you know, kids. Instead of getting scared, the kids more or less like enjoy watching those dogfights and everything else.
What were your remembrances of the attack on Pearl Harbor?
And where were you when it happened?
I was right there in Manila, where I was growing up, and when we heard about the bombing of Pearl Harbor, then it didn't take long until now we start, you know, fearing that the Japanese will be coming in within a short period of time, you know, and hit Philippines.
Did your feelings change about America's involvement in the war?
No, I would say I won't say that my feeling changed, because we have been used with Americans. You know, the Americans have always been there, and we didn't have any problems with the American people. In fact, we have missionaries. You know, where my parents went to school to, where the teachers were missionaries. You know, from foreign land, like the United States.
So, was there a drought in the Philippines for?
Yes, they do, because we have the Philippine forces, you know, Philippine forces that came under the U.S. Government, and our allegiance then is always with the U.S. before, and some were volunteers, and there's a lot of draftees. That, you know, some people don't even want to go to war, but they didn't have any choice because of the draft.
What was your reaction to Truman's decision to drop the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
During the time, I think it was necessary. Otherwise, there are going to be more, you know, atrocities. Also, a lot of people will be killed more by the ongoing war. And that atomic bomb dropping stopped the war right there.
How were your basic needs for food, clothing, and shelter affected by the war?
At the time, you know, it was, for us, it was not too bad. For the local population, it was bad. But it so happened that my uncle owned a store, like a mini supermarket, you know. So we didn't have problems with food. We always have food, and in fact, we help other people that didn't have any.
That's what we did. We had to evacuate because of the bombing. In fact, our house, they bombed and everything was burned down. And then we evacuated to the next town up north. Yeah. But then we just stayed there for a couple of years, or I think a year or so, and then we moved back to my parents' what do you call this, hometown.
How did you get news of the war?
The news? Through radio. At the time we didn't have any television yet, but the radio was ongoing all the time.
Did you receive letters from anyone who was fighting in the war?
No, because we know we have relatives who went to the war and never heard of them again because they never came back.
Did you become more religious or attend church more often during the war?
No, we went to Catholic. I went to Catholic school when I was in a kindergarten or first grade. But during the war, when things gets bad and the parents get all excited, then we all pray.
Were the areas that you lived in affected by rationing?
Goods or food?
Not in my area. Not in my area.
Did you hear about rationing in the Philippines at all?
In some faraway areas, we heard about rationing, but because we were all in the cities, you know, and I don't know, somehow we survived. We didn't have any need for food because we have food from our stores.
And about us,
were there shortages of other goods that affected your lifestyle?
Yes, so some areas of the city, some areas of the city, some areas of the province, because after the Japanese invasion, there were lots of streets that cannot be accessed to, you know, because they cut off like bridges, you know, they block off bridges, they block off highways, so the people were scared to go to those places.
In what ways did you and people around you at home attempt to support the war effort?
At my age, not at all, but my parents, they went to the provinces, and I think they worked underground, you know, to help support the U.S. in whatever means they can. See.
How did they work underground for the U.S.?
It's just like a guerrilla, you know, just like what's going on now in Afghanistan, Iraq, you know.
Were the Japanese occupying some of the Philippines at this time?
Yeah, they did.
they were all over the place.
They're all over the place.
And so there were no Americans?
About that time, they have captured, after most of the American troops surrendered, and also they were interred in some area, certain areas, like some universities. They made a big camp out of those places and put all the foreigners there, you know, Americans and some other people from other nations that were caught, you know, during that invasion, during the war. See, somehow, I think there was some, you could feel the control, you know, you're under control by foreign power, you know, and your movements are very limited, and also one thing about this war. Every time you meet a Japanese soldier, you're supposed to stop and bow to them. And if you don't bow to them, you get slapped. They slap you. No matter how old you are or how young you are, if you don't stop and bow, you're going to get slapped.